Testing. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Agenda Briefing Forum. This evening is not a decision-making forum, it is the briefing on the agenda for the Ordinary Council meeting, which will be held next Tuesday, the 29th of April 2025. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the Council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. And please note this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 3 is announcements, and there are none this evening. Item 4 is attendance. Councillor Ostrowski is on a leave of absence and all other councillors are present in the chamber. Item 5 is disclosures of interest. Councillors? Councillor Latta.
I will declare a proximity interest on AGM motions and 10.1.2 for motion 12, which mentions 8th Avenue in the Maylands Town Centre, where I operate a business. So I will leave the room for that motion if we separate them out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Maleka.
Thank you. I have an impartial interest to 10.3.2, Maylands Lakes Environmental Master Plan update. One of the deputies is known to me outside of my work as a councillor.
And
I'll be staying in the room.
thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I have a proximity interest on one of the AGM items, so 10.1.2 on motion 15. It mentions intersection of King William Street and Guildford Road, and I live on the street, so I'll be having to leave the room for that item.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, if you can just turn off your microphone. Councillor Sutherland.
A proximity interest, and I'll be leaving the room for item 10.1.5, proposed naming of right-of-way bordered by Foyle Road, etc., etc. I have properties on Foyle Road and on Canterbury Road, so I'll leave the room.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 10.3.4, the lease agreement, Noanda Childcare Centre, where I am on the board and chair of the Bayswater Childcare Centre. That's 10.3.4, and that's impartial. And also 10.4.2 on the board of the Noanda Primary School, and this is attached or near the actual school. So on 10.4.2, Deschamps Reserve footpath designated on lead area.
So it's impartial.
Impartial on both, yes, please.
And you'll be staying in the room.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? I'll just declare an interest in 10.3.1, the Frank Drago Soccer Precinct redevelopment, feasibility and advocacy findings report. I attend some of the games there, and some of the committee members are known to me. It's an impartial interest and I'll be staying in the room. Okay. So, deputations. This evening we have 6 in-person deputations, and I will explain how the process works. Each person who is presenting will be invited to come forward to speak at the microphone for up to 5 minutes. As we get close to 5 minutes, I'll let you know so that you can conclude your deputation. Once you have finished, councillors may have some questions for you. So, when you come up to the microphone, please state your name and suburb. So our first one is in relation to item 10.1.2. Kate Bowker has requested to speak in opposition to the officer's recommendation for motion 11, which relates to local road safer speeds trial.
Hello. So as the Mayor has mentioned, I'm talking with regards to motion 11,
Sorry, if you don't mind just stating your name and suburb.
No worries. My name is Kate Bowker. I live in Bayswater. So I'm here to talk about motion 11 in item 10.1.2. So I'm a resident of Bayswater for over 10 years. I have 2 young children. I'm also one of the founders of the Bayswater Bike Bus, which services 2 primary schools in Bayswater. I'm here to speak against the recommendation by the officer and instead request that the council endorse motion 11 in its original intent. So to make walking and bike riding good options for everybody, we need safer speed limits on our streets now. So since making the motion at the AGM, in addition to the City of Vincent, the City of Fremantle, the Shire of Augusta and Margaret River, the City of Busselton, further local governments in Western Australia are joining this move to reduce speed limits on local streets. This includes the City of South Perth. The City of Perth is expanding its 40km/h network. The town of Victoria Park, the City of Subiaco, and the town of Cambridge. So streets are for everyone, they're for people. Local streets are an incredible, valuable local asset for local people to move around their area, and this includes children. So a 20% reduction speed from 50km/h to 40km/h results in a 200% increased likelihood of surviving a collision. So what that means is at 50km/h, 2 out of 10 people would survive. At 40km/h, that jumps to 6 out of 10. I know what type of streets I want in my local area, for my family, for my children, for my neighbours and my friends. I do agree that we need changes in the road diets for our local streets. Unfortunately, the option that the council has gone with for the low-cost urban road safety program are speed humps. My experience as a driver is that these are marginal in reducing speeds. But as a bike rider and someone who rides with young children, speed humps don't make for friendly streets, for small wheels, for training wheels. They create a nice little crevice where all the road debris accumulates and have this little gap with some nice sharp edges that kids like to try and rat run between. My understanding is also that the funding for the low-cost urban road safety program has stalled. And I know the speed bumps in my local area have yet to be installed. I do not want to wait. My community does not want to wait for these to be installed and then for another 6 months to have the speed reduced in our local streets, especially when our neighbours in City of Vincent and across the river in town of Vic Park are getting their speeds reduced right now. My original motion requested a trial. I see no hurdle in a trial starting right now. Streets are for everyone. Our local streets are not safe places at the moment. I want safe local streets for everyone. I want children to be able to move around their local area safely. To make walking and bike riding good options for everyone, we need safer speed limits on our streets now. We need to follow other local governments in Western Australia, other local governments in Australia, multiple local governments and other jurisdictions globally. You just have to look at all the beautiful examples in Europe where they've reduced the speed limits and what this has done for increasing vibrancy in neighbourhoods, reducing accidents, reducing deaths, and actually increasing economic benefits for the local businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll just ask before you take a seat if there's questions from any councillors. No, thank you very much. Our next deputation is in relation to item 10.3.1. Mia Neerich has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation. Please come forward.
I'm Mia Neerich, I'm from Naranda. I wanted to discuss the Frank Drago Soccer Precinct redevelopment. I've been a part of Bayswater City Soccer Club since before I could walk, and I've been playing with them since I was 4 years old. You've seen a lot of teams, juniors, everything up the works. We had our first girls team at the age of 7 called the Pink Demons. We started off in pink socks and pink headbands, and then there wasn't really much women's after that. This is our 3rd year, we have grown the women's again. We've got 2 successful teams in the women's and 7 young girls teams as well. But the facilities are not supporting of the girls. We were able to play 1 game last year at Frank Drago. The rest we are required to play at Emberson because of the facilities. Obviously seniors, the men's take priority. So us women wanting to be a part of the Bayswater City Soccer Club, we get pushed to the side and we're not able to be a part of the community. Obviously the development of the club and being able to have 7 junior girls teams and 2 women's teams is incredible, and it is amazing to be a part of, especially being a part of the club since I have been, like, before I could walk. But it would also be amazing to feel that club connection and be able to play regular games at Frank Drago, have change room facilities, the ones currently, the men's toilets back out onto the change rooms. The game we played last year at Frank Drago, we were actually required to take our bags out of the club rooms and leave them on the floor during our game because the seniors had a game after. So we just want to be a part of the club. We want to obviously have this redevelopment, have more change rooms, more space. We want to feel a part of the club. The development of the teams and having the women's grow and having the juniors go. We have also gone from 78 juniors to nearly 600 this year, but the club facilities just aren't supporting of that. And I think as one of the premier clubs in the Bayswater city, I think it would be great if we could have the council support as well of the redevelopment for the grounds. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just ask if there's any questions for you. No? Thank you. Okay, so we'll now move on to the next deputation, which is in relation to item 10.3.2. Steve Chloe has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation.
Yes, good evening councillors, good evening Mayor, good evening officers of the city as well. Thank you for your time tonight. First of all, I am speaking on behalf of the officer's recommendation in 10.3.2. I thoroughly support it, and so does my family. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking the members and the officers involved in this exercise and this project. In particular, Luke Bodica, Alex Devine, who's in the chamber tonight, and to the CEO, Jeremy Edwards. You've all done a fantastic job. I remember meeting 18 months ago with Alex Devine in my lounge room. He made a promise to me that night and he said, I will have a plan. And tonight, we're sitting here with a plan. And this is the best thing we've seen for a long time. Everyone's done an amazing job, sometimes under unfounded and unjustified criticism from some members of this community. And that won't be forgotten, to be honest. Our young family cannot sustain another 12 years of destruction to our backyard amenity, potential health issues for us and our children by living directly next to a lake containing dangerous cyanobacteria and constant midge infestations. Neither should any member of the community. Our family cannot also sustain another 12 years of potential damage to property values in our area because of this failed man-made lake environment without seeking adequate recourse and compensation. The Maylands Peninsula, its lakes, its riverside areas and natural environments are the gateway to the city of Bayswater and one of its most attractive and valuable resources. The successful Maylands Waterland development, located less than 200 metres from the Lake Brearley, brings to the Lake Precinct thousands of children and families throughout the summer months, all within 200 metres of a dangerous and toxic lake environment. Later this year, there will be a ferry stop to the city built by the Department of Transport on the Clarkson Reserve in Maylands. This will bring more people to the Maylands Peninsula daily. These people will be within 200 metres of a lake system that is toxic and potentially dangerous with cyanobacteria. There is no doubt that in the future, the Clarkson Reserve, the tennis club, the Sport and Recreation Club and the whole Riverside precinct will be activated further in some manner. We can't have a putrid, midge-infested and unsafe environment with cyanobacteria in that locality any longer. It is time to fix it for the future. We are now at a critical juncture in these issues resolved, to get these issues resolved for everyone affected directly and the City of Bayswater community as a whole. The phase plan that is recommended by your officers is the only way forward. Your officers and council, together with members of the affected community, have put in countless hours and a huge effort to get us here for a decision this week or next week. The establishment of a functional wetland ecosystem contained within Phase 2 is an exciting opportunity for the city and will have substantial benefits for the community, just like the Badge-Up wetlands near Garrett Road. Please accept your officer's recommendation with item 10.3.2 and let's get the ball rolling on Phase 1 immediately. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. Just before you take a seat, I'll just ask if there's any questions from councillors. No, thank you. We'll now move on to the next deputation. It's in relation to the same item, item 10.3.2. Kevin Hammersley has requested to speak in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Kevin Hammersley from Maylands. Councillors, I understand that it was not your fault that the Maylands Lakes were designed to fail. I know that the problem was inherited from the City of Stirling, and I understand that it has vexed the council for several years as residents angrily complained about the loss of amenity and risks to their health and well-being. But after years of angst and frustration, we have a great opportunity to move forward with the comprehensive master plan. I know you've been briefed by Tony Webber from Alluvium Consulting, and I hope you too have been impressed with his knowledge, process and pragmatism. I strongly support this recommendation. I sincerely thank you, the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor and the CEO for bringing us to this point. I do want to raise a few points though. This is clearly stage 1 of a 3-stage master plan. I understand the remaining stages are the most expensive and the city will be lobbying for external funding, but they are critical to maintaining the long-term health of the lake ecosystem. I'm also concerned, or still concerned, by the city's position that residents are not at risk from long-term exposure to extremely toxic algal blooms. The logic being that the lakes are not recreational. I don't understand how officers have come to that conclusion when not even the MND researchers understand the link between algal blooms and motor neuron disease. The Government of New South Wales has recently commissioned the Macquarie University to specifically study why there are MND clusters in the Riverina. It is very troubling that there is no proof argument has been used to delay requests for urgent action. Millions of people contracted cancers while Big Tobacco said there was no proof of the link to smoking. Thousands of people contracted mesothelioma while James Hardie said there was no proof of the link to asbestos. And recently, thousands of Australian stonemasons contracted silicosis despite being told there was no proof of the link to engineered stone. Clearly, the no proof argument is not justification for no action. The complexity of neuroscience means it could be 10 years before an answer to the M&D question is answered. But consider the consequences if that breakthrough was published tomorrow. Finally, I want to address the argument that the Maylands Lakes Master Plan is an enormous amount of money to be spent to appease the small number of residents who live on the lakes. Firstly, the lakes are an eyesore, a health risk to humans and threatened species, an environmental disaster, and an embarrassment to the City of Bayswater. Secondly, the Lakes Precinct, as Steve was saying, has the potential to be a recreational drawcard for the whole city. Just imagine paddle boats, bushwalks, bird watching, barbecues and playgrounds. And lastly, the Maylands Lakes Peninsula as a whole has fantastic potential to be the jewel in the crown for the city. Its historical points of interest, like the Peninsula Farm, the aerodrome, the brickworks, combined with the golf course and the natural environment of the Lake Precinct, are all within walking distance and may soon be connected to the Perth ferry system. This master plan could be the beginning of something very special for the City of Bayswater. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll just ask if there's any questions from councillors. No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the next deputation, which is in relation to item 10.4.2. Harvey Tonkin has requested to speak in opposition to the officer's recommendation.
Harvey Tonkin, Noranda. Thank you for the opportunity to present this deposition. I've asked for the map to be open for review. Our request is simple. We are asking that the status quo be maintained, that dogs continue to be allowed off-lead in the designated area. When the original motion was introduced, no clear justification was given for changing the final 35 metres of the footpath from the middle of the public access way to the school boundary to an on-lead zone, aside from a general request from the local primary school. It's important to note that the first 70 metres of this path was already designated as on-lead, so the proposal merely extends the on-lead area by an additional 35 metres. My wife and I have walked our dogs in this park every morning between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. for over 40 years, always off-lead. In all that time, we have never had an incident where our dogs have approached or disturbed school children, nor have we heard of any such complaints from others. When the motion was brought forward in November 2024, a council officer unexpectedly included the northern footpath as part of the proposed on-lead area, allegedly to protect children walking to school via that route. However, the school in question has been in existence since 1980. This raises a crucial question. Why, after 45 years, without incident or concern, are off-lead dogs suddenly seen as a threat? We also wish to raise concern about misleading documentation. The second map presented by council is incorrect and potentially deceptive. I raised this with Councillor Sally Palmer, who was to forward the matter to the relevant officer. However, the map was never amended. The footpath under discussion should be clearly marked with red lines on both sides. The actual council boundary lies approximately, the footpath's not straight, lies approximately 4 to 6 metres north of the path. Yet map 2 fails to show haching in this area. This has misled many residents into believing that the land north of the footpath is part of the proposed on-lead zone, when it is not. There are several practical concerns if this change is enacted. Impractical lead transition. Expecting owners to leash their dogs at the edge of the footpath, walk just 1.3 metres, then unleash again is unrealistic and unnecessary. Access to the water fountain. Many dogs get thirsty and need to go to the water fountain, forcing owners, including some with mobility issues, to leash their dogs just for a drink. Parents and prams. A parent walking with a pram and a dog, and there are quite a few, would need to tether their dog just to walk along this short stretch of the footpath, even though it is surrounded by off-lead zones. This creates confusion and unnecessary burden. In conclusion, this proposed change introduces confusion, inconvenience, and attempts to solve a problem that has not existed in over 4 decades. We respectfully urge the Council to maintain the current off-lead arrangement in this area. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll just ask if there are any questions. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Harvey, for the comments. I'm trying to understand your concerns, and I'm looking at the maps in the agenda showing the current situation and the one that was proposed and approved by council.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm trying to understand. So under the proposal, all the footpath surrounding that part of the park will require dogs to be on lead.
Yeah, my understanding after speaking to the director that it only covers the footpath, the concrete footpath.
So
the second map doesn't show the council boundary, and the hashering doesn't go over it. Even though the land adjoining the council land, this is the northern boundary, the land adjoining it is a school, Education Department owns, which is the council has no control over. Okay? But there is land north that footpath. So the way the map has been drawn, the red line, it should have gone both sides of the footpath.
because on the other side, on the school premises,
No, for the
it is
5
off-
to 6
it's off lead?
metres on the other side is still council land,
Yeah,
and it should be still dog off lead.
off lead.
Yeah, so that map there, as you were looking at that, you assumed that the land on the other side is all off lead.
I understand. So just so I understand that.
Yep.
Just so I understand, so why the change in the second map, for example, on the footpath on the right side? Why, and that was one of the changes, right? Before it was off lead, now it is proposed to be on lead. Why are you saying that that needs to, it is required to be or needed to be off lead? Why is it important for dog owners to have the dogs off lead on the footpath section on the right?
Okay. It's too difficult to differentiate for 35 metres. Down the bottom, the right-hand lot, which is lot 300, theoretically, that is dog on lead because it's not included in the parkland.
Yep.
Right? And it wasn't when the information was introduced for the allowing dogs to run around the park. I never saw the plan, and that's not my fault. It's just, but everyone's assumed when you stand in the corner on the bottom right-hand corner and look out, it's a park.
Yep.
But on a plan, it's a block of land that's 2,000 square metres that you cannot have your dog. You've got to have your dog on lead in that land. Now, the original motion covered the footpath on the eastern boundary.
Yes.
Right? Now, if you're going to run that theoretical side, then the first 70 metres was always dog on lead.
Okay.
Forever.
So I'm trying to understand the change to the right side from off lead to on lead. Is this an issue?
On the right-hand side, in reality, no. It's up against a fence.
So just to
there's a
understand the
border.
issue.
Yeah, but I can't. It's too difficult.
Okay. So okay.
I just
And-
wanted the plans changed, but they wouldn't change them.
Okay. So the main issue, from what I see from you, I hear, is the top side.
Yep, northern boundary.
And that is because you are arguing that on the other side of the footpath, it is also off lead.
That's right. So in other words, we walk our dogs from the bottom right-hand corner across up to the school oval, we cross that footpath. I don't want to be running up to the dog as he's running along chasing the ball, having to put the lead on, walk over 1.3 metres and continue, because the other side of the footpath for the first 5 metres is council land and it is already dog off lead.
Thank you. Thank you, Harvey.
Sorry, Ms. Tonkin, I have some questions.
Yes.
So you said the land north of the footpath is 5 metres is council land.
Yep.
And the rest of the land is Department of Education.
That's correct.
Land. Is there any fence or boundary?
No.
There isn't?
No, you
Is-
can't differentiate.
You can't differentiate. Is the Department of Education land off lead?
The council doesn't have any control, so theoretically, yes. At the moment, yes. Because the council doesn't have control over their land.
Okay.
And just to define the land, if you look at the first map, you'll see the council boundary
Yes,
running
the red
5,
line.
6 metres, and you can see the hashering on that. So when they did the second one, they left that bit out. That's one thing that I'm
Because
not happy
they did the red line underneath the footpath,
Yeah,
is what
but
you're
it should have
saying.
been, I was told it only covered the footpath, so they should have put a parallel line.
Gotcha.
And so people were coming, when I was doing the petition, people were saying, but it means all this land here is, I've got to have my dog on lead. And I'm going, no, it's not. Because if they look at the first map, they see that it's already hashed.
Yeah, understand. And then my question is around, you said the bottom right-hand corner is a 2,000 square metre block.
Yep.
And you're saying that that's dog on lead.
Now, at the moment, yes.
It's dog on lead. So where we've got the, square red line to differentiate that, is there a fence or any
No,
barrier?
There's nothing.
Okay. So I guess my question is, when you're running your dog off lead, how do you stop your dog from entering that 2,000 square metres of on-lead area?
You can't. If you've been there, it's a drainage sump. So it's a big hollow, drops
Yeah.
down about 2.5 metres, right?
But it's accessible.
It's open.
It's open.
Yeah, if you stand on the bottom right-hand corner and look out, you will just see trees over to your left where the playground is.
Yeah.
And you'll see a big sump,
Yeah.
which that only covers 2/3 of the sump. And so if you speak to the people who walk their dogs down there, 99.9% of people, if you told them that your dog has got to be on a lead in this little box here, they'd look at you sideways.
So they're not doing that.
That's right. And theoretically, since the Act was changed 10 or 15, can I add something else? Where that red line comes down to meet Deschamps Road, so on the western boundary of that lot in the drainage sump, just to the right of that red line, there is actually a sign there that says you can have your dog off lead. The council put a sign up.
So it is off lead?
That's right. The sign says that. I know what it's supposed to say. I'm not going to ring you up and say you need to remove that sign. I'm not stupid. Sorry. But if you go there, there's a sign that says. And it doesn't say from this sign, it just says. It's in the middle of it. And it's just, not the middle of that lot, but it's just to the right of where that red line comes.
Okay.
And I'm only talking about the first part because there's 2 other parts, and the third part where I'd like to see the lot 300 converted to something that everyone understands.
Okay. Lot 300 being the sump.
That block of land,
Yeah.
the sump.
Okay.
And look, there's a lot of people that take their dogs, they run their dogs down in the sump. There's a reason for that because they've got a bit of control.
Yeah.
And really speaking, I don't come down in the afternoon, so I can't comment, but I do know in the morning, twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, the kids run right around, they start at the school, they run down McCarthy, along Deschamps, down the footpath, back to the school, right? I have never seen on those days in the last 10 years, and I speak to the deputy principal at the school all the time, she's never complained to me, we talk to her. I can only relate to what I do, right, and what I see. But I've never seen a problem.
Okay. So the school children do use this parcel before school, during school and after school?
The kids use it first thing in the morning, 7:45. They'll run around it, right, Tuesdays and Thursdays. The kids that walk to school generally walk, they'll walk down McCarthy and they walk diagonally across the school oval because there's an entry to the school. I've never seen anyone walk right along the footpath and then go down because it's the long way into school. There will be kids that will walk down the footpath on the eastern boundary, right? And because the parents park on Deschamps Road and then they either walk with them or send their kids down on bikes, whatever. But there are kids that go down that way to get into the school.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Deputy
Yeah.
Mayor has another question.
Thank you. Sorry, another question. So I'm trying to understand why the area that is marked off-lead at the bottom map is not sufficient. Why are you saying that it is required to provide more? Why the bottom is, you mentioned the fountain, dog fountain, which I understand is on the other side of the footpath?
It's on the northwestern corner of the hall. No, it's on the footpath. It's right on the corner of the hall, the dog fountain.
Okay. But
So where the footpath runs from the playground and it runs to the western side of that hall, right? If you go to the end, that's where the dog fountain is.
okay, so why
Sorry.
the marked area is not enough? Why are you saying that you also want to have access to the 5 meters on the other side of the footpath?
Okay. No, I'm not asking that.
You're not
All
asking
I'm asking for is leave it as it is. In other words, don't take out the footpath.
I understand that. But I understand that, Harvey. But what is the problem with what you see now is proposed? I'm trying to say why that is not enough. You're against the change. So why what you see on the screen at the bottom map is not enough for dog owners to have that space? To me,
mean
it
the
looks
school oval?
quite a lot of space there to have dogs running around off-lead.
The issue isn't space for the dogs.
So what
The
is it?
issue is if I'm running my dogs through the Hashard Park, part of the park, and I get to the footpath, I've got to run up, put it on a lead, walk 1.3 metres across, and then take it off the lead and it can continue running.
On the other side of the footpath?
Yes, that's what you're passing. You're trying to pass a motion that says the footpath is dog on lead, not the area, just the footpath. So all I would like is just leave it as, and the people that I got for the petition who were confused with the map that was produced, we just want the status quo.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anything else?
Any other questions, councillors? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so councillors, we have also received 7 written deputations tonight. 5 are in relation to item 10.1.2 annual general meeting response to motions, and 2 are in relation to item 10.3.2 Maylands Lakes Environmental Master Plan update. These written deputations have been provided to councillors and are available on the city's website, and I will take those as read. So I'll now move on to item 7, which is questions on agenda reports. And I don't believe anyone's highlighted anything in advance. So I'll just go around and see if there are questions from councillors. Anyone? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, on a few items, but maybe the first one is with regards to 10.1.2. Following the deputation, the motion 11 from the AGM of electors.
So on motion 11?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, if people are going to ask questions about this, if we could just know which motion in case there's conflicts.
Yes.
Yep. So just
motion
on
11?
motion 11?
Yes, following the deputation that we had.
Yes, go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you. So my question is, what will be the process and implications of supporting a trial as was requested to reduce the speed limit in some of the areas around the city? Generally, what is the process?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, the process for doing a 40-kilometre speed trial in an area involves us approaching main roads and having that discussion with them initially. We have done that in the past, and what's happened in the past is they've asked for traffic count data and information in terms of what the current speeds are, and they've instructed us to look at putting traffic calming devices in those areas to bring, put some physical treatments in the area to bring the traffic speeds down before we consider putting in a 40-kilometre-an-hour zone. So we've asked that question previously, and that's why the motion that is proposed is linking it to the LCERS program, because the LCERS program looks at putting in traffic calming devices that will slow down traffic in those areas.
Thank you. So I do recall that we did reduce the speed limit in the Mount Lawley section of the city of Bayswater just a few years ago. And I do not, can you remind me if we added any road treatments before we did that?
Through the chair, that's part of the City of Vincent trial, so the city was involved with the City of Vincent. I think majority of that 40 kilometre per hour zone is actually in the City of Vincent, and a small part is in the City of Bayswater because of the Mount Lawley suburb area. That one there, I cannot tell you off the top of my head how many treatments are in the City of Bayswater, but there are treatments in that area. I don't have the information here, but I can provide some more information before the council meeting in terms of how many treatments are in those areas.
Can you, and I'm happy to take it on notice, can we get information whether we received any objections with regards to reducing the speed limit in Mount Lawley?
Through the chair, I'll have to look through the records and I can provide that information.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item or this motion, councillors? If not, Deputy Mayor, what was your next one?
10.4.2, also following the deputation around the Shemp Reserve.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just to clarify the point that was raised by the deputy around the land on the other side of the footpath. I understand that some land is city land, some land is Department of Education land. Can we get some confirmation around that? And what it means when it comes to off-lead, on-lead on Department of Education land?
I'll go to the Director.
Thank you. So in terms of the notice motion, the notice motion requested that the footpath itself become on lead. It is accepted there is a portion of land to the north of that footpath, approximately 4 to 6 metres, depending on where you measure it, which is part of the reserve, the City of Bayswater Reserve, that yes, in theory would remain as off lead. However, that will be managed through signage, etc. And whether one wants to take a dog on and off lead over the course of a 6 metre portion, that's upon them. And above that section is the school site. And just reviewing the primary school policy online and the information for parents booklets states that dogs are not permitted on school grounds even if on a leash. So although there are potentially dogs that are using that school oval, the school policy is that no dogs are permitted on their grounds. However, the city does not have jurisdiction to administer those rules, but that is their rule.
Thank you, Director. And did I hear that you said that the land on the other side of the footpath will stay off-lead?
Thank you. Through the chair, through the mayor. So yes, that is correct. So it is an anomaly in the mapping process that technically it will remain off lead. However, we will be putting in place signage just before should council approve this.
Yeah.
We would be putting signage in to the south of that footpath saying it is now on lead. And we wouldn't be placing signage after the footpath to say that it's now off lead. We would simply be just putting in place the on lead sign.
So what will be the status, off-lead or on-lead?
Technically, the status will be off lead, but we won't be signing it as off lead.
Okay, thank you.
So I just have a follow-up question. So given that that's the case, would it be possible then to just change the boundary to be off lead up until south of the footpath, and then everything from the footpath north is on lead? So then people know that there's actually a barrier as to where the off and on start and end?
That was certainly the intention of the notice motion and the city's officers, and that is something that we can look at. Would need to take on notice as to whether we would have to re-advertise or whether council can make that decision at next council meeting. So I'll provide that information this week.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? No? Deputy Mayor, did you have another one?
Yes. With regards to 10.4.3, review of mobile food vendor guidelines.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I have a few questions. Is the mobile food vendor permit does it apply also to events? Do the food vans that we see in city events use the same permit, or do we provide other permits when it comes to events? What's the interaction?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. For events, my understanding it's not this specific guidelines, but I'll take that on notice and provide you that detail.
Thank you. With regards to the change to the distance, the 350 meters, sorry, I don't have the specific section, but the new distance that is proposed between a account business and where some food vans can operate, where do you measure the 350 meters from? Where does it start?
I'll go to the director.
Thank you. So it's a bird's eye view on a map from the edge of the portion in which a food van can be to the closest edge of a premises.
So what the premises is the lot?
Yes.
Okay. So not necessarily the building, but the whole lot.
My understanding is the lot,
Is the lot,
and
okay.
I'll confirm with you this week as well.
Thank you. Do we know if that specific change would result in any implications to any of the existing food vans operating in our city, in any of the parks and reserves?
Thank you, through the chair. So there are a number of locations in which food van operators can operate within in accordance with the guidelines. We have undertaken a review and it is our view that they principally will not be impacted. There is one which is Robert Thompson Park. There is I believe, a coffee van that sits there. That will be within 220 metres of the shopping centre, which I understand would have a coffee shop within there. However, Robert Thompson Park is not a listed venue under the guidelines, so therefore wouldn't be impacted.
Okay. With regards to, again, the same requirement, which refers to same offerings, right? Do you mean food offerings, or it can be also drink offerings?
The intention is food and beverage. So it's food and or beverage.
So if someone sells a Coke in a brick and mortar business, does that mean that any of the food vans in less than 350 meters cannot sell Coke?
I take your point. I think our intention is more around, for example, smoothies. So if you had a smoothie business within 350 metres and then there was a food van offering the same type, then that's when we would call the demarcation point. And that's how we would be applying the guidelines, not specifically to your frequent beverages that you would expect.
So how will you differentiate if there is no definition? Wouldn't that create some confusion for the city and food vans to understand whether they can work, and operate from specific locations?
Thank you. We could add the word specialty, so specialty beverages, if that would assist council. The reality is that these are guidelines and our officers will be assessing applications on a case-by-case situation. So the expectation is, in terms of its application, is more around those specialty beverages as opposed to a common beverage that you would expect. For example, a bottle of water.
Thank you. And what about, so it talks about, again, the 350 meters providing same offerings. And what about the operational hours of the brick and mortar businesses? What happens if a brick and mortar does not operate in the evenings? So that will preclude or exclude a food van from operating in that space, in the 350 meters, even if they provide the same offerings, but the brick and mortar business does not operate during that time.
That's not currently contemplated in the policy.
So what?
the guidelines.
So what will be the maybe there is a gap, but what will be the intention of the city to allow food vans? I'm happy to take it on notice to allow food vans to not operate generally if they provide the same offerings, no matter what, if the brick and mortar business operates during those times, or the intention is not to exclude them.
The intention is that they are not to operate at any time if they are within 350 metres of a similar business.
Thank you. A funny one, I just crossed my mind because I heard Mr. Whippy, the food van, just the other day, and they're obviously operating in all reserves. How that Mr. Whippy, whatever the terminology, how that comes into play with the permit system?
Thank you. I believe they fall under as an itinerant vendor because they're on the move, but I'll provide you further information this week.
Thank you. And my last question is with regards to limb 3 of the motion, which says, notes that the mobile food vendor guidelines are not a council policy and authorizes the CEO to undertake all future reviews. When it says undertake all future reviews, does that mean also approving changes to the guidelines without coming to council?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, so this is what okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on this one? Councillor Latta?
I just want to get clarification what you said about Robert Thompson Park. Sorry, because it is listed.
I just noticed that, and so I will take that on notice and come back to council on that. Thank you.
Okay, can we also look at Riverside Gardens and whether that is within distance of existing businesses? And I suppose AP Hines Reserve.
Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm concerned about the noise that the generators are sort of growing and progressively getting louder at Crimea. It says 75 decibels. Have we ever actually given notice to any vendors regarding noise? 75 decibels is still very high.
I'll
Thank
go
you.
to the director.
Thank you. I will take that on notice. I'm not sure specifically with Crimea Park, but I will note that we are proposing to limit the number of food vans at Crimea Park, which we hope would assist in those situations.
Any other questions on this item? If not, are there any questions on any other items, councillors? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, I do have questions about the confidential item.
Okay, I'll just ask if there's questions on items that are not confidential first. Councillors? No? Okay, so Councillor Latta?
I have a question about the AGM motions, which is 10.1.2, regarding motions 13 and 14. I just want to get clarification that where it says the next annual business planning process, they mean the city means 26, 27.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, that's correct. 26, 27.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other items that are not under confidential that councillors have questions on? If not, we'll have to close the doors and ask members in the gallery to leave, sorry. Thank you, councillors. I'll now close this briefing at 8:08 p.m. Thank you.